I hate y'all. Why this 2K game lows? We are gonna do a reaction video. It's the science behind Elon Musk's Neuralink brain chip, and it's by Wired. So that's who's providing the video, or that's where we're gonna watch from. But let's see what they have to say, and let's see what Elon is working on now, cause he be working on some crazy stuff, y'all. Damn, I just. Let's go.
Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain chip company, recently pushed back on claims that it violated animal welfare laws a few years ago while testing on monkeys. This year, the company plans to.
Damn! He violated the laws because he started testing on monkeys? Yo, that's wild. He said F human rights. Damn! Poor monkeys though. That's crazy. Like, why monkeys, like, not rats? Pause. Like, testing on animals overall is bad, okay? I'm like...
to test on human subjects. But when it does, what would this major step mean for brain implant science?
Academics like me have conducted clinical trials in people with brain implants.
Dr. Paul Neuralink is a professor of bioengineering and neurosurgery. He directs the brain interfacing laboratory at Stanford.
For about 20 years now. Academic research brain implants, up until this point, more or less, have almost exclusively been with wires. The difference that the N1 has, that the Neuralink, it's fully implantable, it is battery powered, it is wireless. All of this is being done over Bluetooth.
Wait a minute, it just said it's battery powered. Not to be that person, but like, do you have to recharge it then? Like, what the fuck you mean it's battery powered? Like, how would that work? And so they have been doing this before? This is with wires, now it's fully Bluetooth? Like, what?
Protocol.
Let's dive into the science behind Neuralink to understand how exactly human brain chips work.
The science behind how these implants work.
Hold up, and you don't see another problem with them calling it human brain chips? Like, what the does no one see that as a red flag? Like, like, I could see the benefit in it, but like, I'm also thinking, like, could you hack into it? Like stuff like that, because if it's run by computers and like batteries, I know you can hack into other stuff. So like would you take over someone's will in a sense? Like, is that even possible, or am I just over speculating? I don't know. But let's get more into the video, because that's crazy, man.
Is not that different from how you would go about trying to measure the energy from a AA battery. It's the same principle. Principle that we're doing with these brain implants. This is called neuroelectrophysiological recording. When you move your arm to the right, certain sets of neurons are activated in a certain pattern. Listening in to that activity and that pattern, you can predict very quickly which direction the arm is going to move. These are the neurons that are directly wired to your muscle.
Unless that pathway from the brain to the spinal cord to the muscle is damaged, the way it is in patients with paralysis.
That pathway is damaged, then the neural signals, the signals from the brain, aren't going to get down to move the muscles. But in many cases, the signals are still present in the brain, they're just not getting out. So if you reach in and put something that listens in to those neurons, and you know what's happening to the muscle.
And that's the goal of a brain implant. Now let's look at...
Wait, so technically speaking, wouldn't you be able to control someone based off of that, or am I bugging? And this is how the thumbnail looked. It was scary like this.
At a timeline of brain interface breakthroughs over the years. Scholars have long been interested in how the brain works, so it's important to view these new developments at Neuralink as a culmination of breakthroughs by brain-machine interface researchers, especially in the last few decades. For example, in 2002, the first demonstration of real-time cursor control in monkeys took place. 2008, a monkey controlling a robotic arm in 3 dimensions fed itself. 2012, the first brain-controlled robotic arm by a human. 2017, a human controlled a cursor mentally to type out words and sentences. Dr. Neuralink was part of this study, as well as the one in 2018, where a human subject mentally controlled a tablet to do things like browse the web, send emails, and play games or music.
All that's been done with a couple hundred electrodes.
You don't think that's fucking crazy, bro? She's using a mind in a tablet to, like, come on now, like, I don't know, y'all. That is kind of scary, bro.
But in 2019, Neuralink, a private company, changed the game when it unveiled a pig named Gertrude with a wireless implant that monitored about 1,000 neurons.
The neurons are like wiring, and you kind of need an electronic thing to solve an electronic problem.
That was a very interesting moment because it signaled to the community that they're serious, they're investing, they're building hardware from scratch, and they're putting it in large animals. For the pig, the electrodes were implanted in somatosensory cortex, allowing them to measure sensory activity, like that of taking a step. Every time that particular neuron they were listening to fired, you would hear this little pop or click from the audio channel. And so the moment I heard it, right, it's like, oh yeah, they got neurons. You just recognize it instantly. You know what neurons sound like if you've been listening to them for decades. And that's what they were communicating, right? They were telling the field, we've got neurons. Pay attention.
And overnight, it seemed the industry took notice. Then, in April of 2021, Neuralink released the so-called Mind Pong video.
Pager was the name. It's a rhesus macaque, which is, the type of monkey that is very commonly used in this field. Implanted with 2 of the N1 devices, the Neuralink.
Wait a minute. They normally use monkeys as a source to test out the Neuralink, or like overall when people are doing research, monkeys are like the next alternatives to rats. Like, I don't know. I don't do research like that, so I don't know if, like, using animals is normal. But what the hell?
Link devices performing brain control of a cursor on a screen. That's extremely significant because here Neuralink is showing their new hardware, their new device in their hands, works in a monkey. That's the level that's necessary to convince the scientific community, to convince the FDA that you're ready to go into human clinical trials. That's the evidence the FDA is looking for.
The recording power of the N1 device and pager was eye-opening because of the sheer number of individual electrodes that had been implanted.
There was definitely a lot of clever engineering that went into that to build a device that can transmit 2048 electrodes worth of spiking information, right, of digital ones and zeros of spikes over a radio wirelessly. And when you have that many channels, the performance that you should be able to get should eclipse what we've been able to do in the academic.
I'm also thinking, like, how is it not overriding? Like, how is it not, like, you know what I mean? I don't know, or is that just me?
Field. The maximum number of electrodes I've ever recorded from is 200 to 300.
So with all those electrodes, how does a device like the N1 get implanted in a subject's brain?
See? It had the same
Make no
question
mistake,
I had.
this is neurosurgery. It is not a joke. This requires cutting the skin, getting down to skull, drilling a hole in the skull, exposing what's called the dura, which is this protective layer of tissue that surrounds the brain, cutting the dura, folding it back to expose the brain, and then you get to the surface of the brain where you can implant the electrodes.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
biggest
guys.
risks
I can feel that.
with these types of techniques
Oh,
are
no.
infection, bleeding, and tissue damage.
Ooh.
So what would it take for the FDA to approve clinical trials in
Like I said, I feel like for people that need it or people that are willing to sign up for it, it could do a lot of great things. But at the same time, I could see how it could do a lot of bad things. You feel me? So, like, for instance, like, doctors, hospitals, people that can afford it, I feel like even the people that can't afford it, people should start nonprofits so they can be able to experience this too. But give them Neuralinks, you feel me? If they want it, of course, with consent. But this is what I'm saying. It can also go in the wrong hands. Like, for instance, it could get... certain governments could get in control of it. Certain organizations can get in control of it. Maybe learn how to use it. Maybe a private person hacks it. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's run based off of Wi-Fi and shit. If anything's based off of Wi-Fi or if it needs anything to connect to the internet, it can be hacked. Whether you want to sit here and lie to yourself, it can be hacked. Trust and believe it can be hacked. So now it's just like, is it really going to happen to you? Probably not. But it's also like, I watch so many movies, and it's just like conspiracy theories, of course. But what if you guys, like, it just takes over, you know what I mean? Like it controls your muscles and your movement, right? So this is what I'm thinking. If it literally takes over of you, right? It takes over and there's nothing you can do. Because implants it in your brain and it's literally taking over your muscles. Like, there's nothing you can do. Like, what then? But, this probably wouldn't happen, though, so you don't gotta worry.
Humans.
The Neuralink device are called Class 3 medical devices. They are implantable, and they're going into very sensitive body cavities. That is the highest level of scrutiny that the FDA assigns to medical devices. They don't have a predecessor. There's no previous example that's approved. And so, very appropriately, they got a high bar they have to cross in order to get it approved. So what Neuralink has to do next is prepare a very long and technical document with all the evidence from animal studies that their device is safe and effective. This document is submitted to the FDA, who has 90 days to review and give them an answer. If the FDA says yes, then their clinical trial is approved and Neuralink can enroll and recruit human participants. We're on the cusp of a complete paradigm shift. This type of technology has the potential to transform our treatments, not just for stroke and paralysis and degenerative disease, motor degenerative diseases, but also for pretty much every other type of brain disease, from Parkinson's to epilepsy to dementias, Alzheimer's, and even psychiatric disease. Seeing Neuralink and the other companies in this space start an industry around neuroengineering, brain-machine interfaces, neuroprosthetics.
Like I said, it can do so much, but I could also see how it can do so much. Like, you know what it is? This is what I want. Like, I feel like for y'all to take away, anything in this world that can have such a positive impact, it can have a negative impact too. It just depends whose hands is it in. It's that simple. That simple.
Has been a tremendous amount of validation for neuroscientists and engineers who have been working in this space for decades. How much happier could the scientific community be than to give birth to an industry?
So will this industry someday lead to the creation of cyborg humans?
I'm confused. Did scientists not create fucking pills? Are there not pharmaceuticals? Do scientists not create drugs? What is he talking about? You already got $1 billion industry. You just want another one.
With superhuman intelligence?
There's all sorts of wild speculation in our field. I think science fiction is wonderful at telling very creative and captivating stories about all sorts of things, including brain-machine interfaces. The reality is we are in such early stages of this space, right, where we are just barely
lying.
able.
You saw the way he blinked his eyes and shit. He was lying. We're just in such early stage. No, you're not. First of all, how are you in such early stages? But you already got when you launched the Neuralink, it was already with a monkey playing a video game. That means you're past certain stages. That means you're showing the world that it's a done deal and it can happen. You're not only giving hope, but you're showing proof to the pudding. Stop. Keep the cap, bro. Keep the cap.
Able to record from neurons that control muscles.
Like, bro,
and try to...
How are you in the early stages, but you're making fucking animals do that shit? Nah, bro. Yes, you're in the early stages in a sense, but you're not in the early stages. When that man said that, he was thinking, like, how much have you started? That man knows darn well they've been working on this for probably 7 years now.
Interpret something, glean meaningful information out of that. We're going to be in that space for decades. That's where I will focus much of my career, is understanding what's going on with these neurons and the circuits that they are working on. That's where the last 15 years of my work has been, and the coming several decades of my work will focus in on this space, because that's going to be the forefront of neuroscience. The rest, I think, is fun to think about, but I don't see how that's going to be in the foreseeable future.
He says that now until Elon fully recruits him for himself, bro. Like, you know what it is? You know what I learned, bro? People like that, when they be like, oh, I don't think it's gonna da-da-da. Once you put them in an environment where it's like, they don't think, but it's proof in the pudding, like the environment's already doing what you're saying you don't think can happen, then they're just too stunned to speak. They're just like, they just have that blank stare on their face. Because in their head, they already, like, had defeat. Like, oh, I'm going to be doing the same thing for 10 to 15 years. Bro, what? Nah, bro. The simple fact that you already made that much improvement in 10 to 15 years just says a lot, bro. Back in the old days, for them to even figure out certain shit, they had to, like, half the population have to die. Like, nah, bro. Come on now. But that's cool. That's very cool and very interesting. I want to see where it takes us in the next 30, 45 years, you know? I'll be live, so we'll see. We'll really see.